All right, peace, world. It's Pastor Mo Freeman, and Black Man in Therapy. We're joining you here. This is not the Radical Side of Monarchy Avenue. We're here live at the Victor Sullivan Gallery in Brooklyn, Washington, D.C., Brooklyn, in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. This is pretty much the art district of the nation's capital, and we wanted to have an artist talk. The late, great Paul Robeson said that artists are the gatekeepers of truth. So we want to put some paint on the ink and give a different point of view as we are here, as the world is, on pins and needles, waiting to see what happens in Inauguration 2021, because at this point, anything can happen. I'm joined here with one of the great artists of our time in the DMV, but before we get to that, I got a little housekeeping. Got to do a quick public service announcement. Something else is going on tomorrow on Inauguration on January 20, 2021. It is the Gospel Celebration, the Evening of Inspiration and Unity, hosted by Anthony Anderson and DC's own Lamont Rucker, produced by my man Turk. Shout out to Turk Stevens. This is a virtual event, of course. It was airing 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for tickets, you can go to the2021igc.org. That's the2021igc.org. And the evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and the evils of racism. MLK all day. And as I said, I'm joined here by one of the great artists of our time. His name is Freddie Dunn. He is one of the preeminent trumpeters. Trumpet. I'm just trying to get some sauce, man. Not only in DC, but in DMV, the tri-state area here in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States of America. He has been a critically acclaimed artist. He's performed all over the world. Some of you may recognize him from his iconic work with the group Fertile Ground. We want to make sure that we address everything that people are thinking about, but we don't hear them talk about in corporate media. And in the words of Martin Luther King, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? MLK every day. With that, I turn it over to the great trumpeter, Freddie Dunn. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Where do we go? We finished that quote. What is it? Chaos or community?
Chaos or community.
And it looks like we're in the midst of the chaos. I've been a DC resident. I'm a transplant from up north, New Jersey. Shout out to Dirty Jersey. For like 13 years now, and on and off. Actually, if I had some other time, I spent a few years in the southeast, on the other side of the river. But I've never seen the things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. It's unprecedented. It's crazy. We went to go shopping down at Costco in Virginia. I guess it probably was on the 6th or maybe the 7th. But trying to get back home to Northeast was crazy. There were police blocking every cross-going road. There were, soldiers, and I'm like, wow, it's really on lockdown. That was before they rolled out the National Guard and brought in 20,000, 25,000 soldiers to try to protect the party that maybe they shouldn't even be having. Is it hubris? What is it that you want to project the image of normalcy against a backdrop of chaos?
That's a great description. Say that again, because that bears repeating.
It is what it is. They want to present the image of normalcy against a backdrop of chaos. If you need 25,000 soldiers to protect your party, perhaps you shouldn't be having a party. And that's not to throw rocks at the newly elected president and vice president. That's basically just saying what it is. Maybe sometimes the idea of leadership, and everybody's approaches that from a different standpoint. But they could probably save millions of dollars, save a bunch of soldiers from the discomfort of sleeping on hard, masonry and marble floors, and do the inaugural swearing in a bunker somewhere where they're safe from sniper fire, or safe from potential danger of an enemy actor within the protective bubble that they're trying to create. So that's just my thought. I don't know what you think.
Well, that's heavy. I always have to bless every presentation I do with quotes as bookends. And we quote it MLK, but I want to use something that is explicitly for this moment in time. Many of us are very familiar with Martin Luther King's last speech, of course, but we're not as familiar with his last speech in Washington, D.C., which was his next to his last speech he gave in his life. And it was called The Naming of Great Revolution. And as fate would have it, I thought I took my notifications off and I realized Fred revolution is something that we're all probably a bit afraid of. I know you are I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of it. But there's no growth without pain. And revolution hopefully entails growth. You hopefully don't have a retrograde revolution, which is kind of what it felt like we were under for the past 4 years under that administration, and even before that. Yeah, I would concur, but I was, definitely before that, because I think the retrograde started under the Reagan administration. Or the Nixon administration. Well, you can take, when was America great? We've only had, Jimmy Carter was the only president, and you just banned. Well, Jimmy Carter is the only president I didn't hate. And somebody was like, what about JFK? Well, let me say something real quick. The Kennedys signed the wiretaps and turned J. Edgar Hoover loose on Martin Luther King, so that's unforgivable for me. Yeah, he was alright, but that's unforgivable for me. So now I got the quote. I apologize for the interruption. This is Martin Luther King's next to last speech given in his life. It was delivered March 31st, 1968, right here in Washington, D.C. He went on to say this. One of the great liabilities of life is that all too many people find themselves living amid a great period of social change, and yet they fail to develop the new attitudes, the new mental responses that the new situation demands. They end up sleeping through a revolution. That is MOK every day. Now, we said this off camera. I want to make sure we said this online. But with historical history fact for you guys, Hitler went to prison for inciting a riot. All right? And that riot, he was blaming the Jews for all of their problems, saying that they actually did not lose World War I, that they just gave up. Kind of sounds kind of like the South will rise again, and what the good old boys say here, and it's those brown and black people, and then when he came home from prison, he took over. And then you have the genocide that you saw. This sounds eerily familiar. What do you think is about to happen next?
Wow. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. History is sometimes informative of what's going to happen in the future, especially when people don't study history. In America, we've been, history turned into social studies, turned into, I don't know what, economics, the things that we really need to be successful citizens and successful humans. We're not always availed of, especially in the more impoverished areas. They don't teach you how to build a business or about economics and finances. They don't teach you about civics and how the government works and how to gain control of the levels of power, because that is disruptive to the status quo. Okay, what's going to happen? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but I really think that it could break down one of two ways. We either progress or we go backwards. There's no such thing as standing still.
Chaos or community. King's last book should be required reading for all. Sometimes the rebirth or the reorganization comes out of chaos. So the only thing that I can look back on these last 4 years from the administration we've had in the White House and say, okay, if you try to take any positives out of it, the positive is that a lot of people have been awakened to the
use the word that really first comes to mind, but
Use the first word that comes to mind. We lost that FCC license.
The bullshittery is exactly what it is.
Bullshittery?
Yeah.
Is that like caucasity?
Yeah, you know?
The ultimate caucasity.
It really is, you know. I mean, everybody's been kind of contrasting the response of the authorities to the push that happened on the 6th, the insurrection, the attempted coup d'etat, whatever you want to call it. I don't think you can use words that are big enough to really encapsulate what they tried to do. I mean, the news just broke that some lady tried to get or did get Nancy Pelosi's laptop with the intent to send it, sell it, or turn it over to the Russian intelligence. You know, so there were elements of that whole situation that were organized and coordinated. The element, you know, of course, they had to have the cover of the riot to allow them to gain entrance and to do the things they did. But the fact that only one person was shot in the attempt to gain entrance to the building just tells you the difference between the type of responses you get. I mean, you can be going into your own vestibule and catch 41 slugs. You know what I'm saying? You can be alleged to sell bootleg cigarettes and get choked out in the public space. You know, I mean, there's so many. You know, you can get the life, you know, choked out of you with someone's knee in front of an audience that's begging them to stop, without the type of provocation that we witnessed on the 6th.
Ultimate caucasity. One thing I want to have a deep dive into everything that you feel that was not being addressed or acknowledged or discussed in any of the media coverage that you've seen thus far pertaining to the insurrectionists, okay? One of the things I want to point out, and I learned this today listening to Tom Hartman, and that is our mainstream program here on React Radio. You can catch him 12 to 3 and 3 to 6 on weekdays. Tom Hartman is probably the #1 progressive talk show host in America. You should check him out and add him to your cultural diet. Having said that, one of the things that came up today was that we all saw that they was chanting Hayne Pence, right? And that's their guy. Hayne Pence is their guy. But they had constructed the hangman's noose, right? Now, for those who do not know, outside of DC, you cannot get in front of a federal building and start building something. You know, like how long did that take? That was not mobile. There was no wheels. They didn't roll that down the street and put it up there. Someone constructed that. And you need to stop and think, how much time did it take for them to construct that? Because the timeline that we've been given is that they arrived around 1 o'clock. They had breached the Capitol doors by 2 o'clock. Okay? So you're going to tell me that they put that whole thing together in 1 hour. You see what I'm saying? Like, the timeline, like, we want to talk about in terms of police culpability, and for those who do not know, it's not just a few bad apples, okay? Even though that's bad enough, as Chris Rock said, you can have a few bad apples flying planes. You know, most of our people that fly planes like to land safely, but a few bad apples like to crash into buildings, okay? That would be unacceptable. But somehow we accept the notion of this few bad apples, which within law enforcement, which is a fallacy that is given to you and fed to you by the corporate media. Because when I was a kid, whenever I heard someone say a few bad apples, the quotes finished with spoils the whole barrel. A few bad apples spoils the whole barrel. That's what I was taught. I don't know about you. But having said that, the FBI report, not the We Act Radio report, not the Black Agenda report, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation report in 2006 explicitly says that law enforcement has been infiltrated by white supremacists. And they do not say Heil Hitler, they don't wear swastikas, they don't wear white power salutes, but they quietly assume positions of power to further the nefarious agenda. And and that means all levels of law enforcement, from cops to judges to prosecutors and so forth. But I just want to put that onto you. What do you think about the timeline and the construction of that news? I think that they had more aid and more support than what we want to care to acknowledge. In fact, there was 2 National Guardsmen that they just pulled out. No, they did not charge them or under suspicion or conspiracy or anything. You know what I'm saying? Because, bruh, I'm sorry, I'm taking up all the time, but just a history point. The police was looking for Frederick Douglass when John Brown did his thing at Harper's Ferry for a potential accomplice. And you're going to tell me they're going to have an insurrectionist, and then you're going to find out that just 2, only 2 of the entire National Guards has any white supremacist ties, and you don't arrest them or attain them, because you know they can hold you for 24 hours for nothing, right? You know that, right? In fact, before Obama signed a National Defense Authorization Act, they can hold you indefinitely. We get too deep. Go ahead, man. You got me. Ain't no black man in there. You got to excuse me. I'm usually drinking by this time, but I'm on a fast. So I'm completely sober and I'm doing the master class. I turn it over to Brick.
You can't go too deep, because this rabbit hole doesn't have a bottom, and we've seen it. You know, I mean, you can look at it in several different ways. You can say, okay, they announced 2. The purpose of an announcement like that, without identifying why they were removed, other than that they have white supremacist ties or disguised white supremacist ideology in their social media feeds and that sort of thing, is to send a message to the others of their community and say, hey, we're looking for you, we want you, and if you know them and you're associated with them, then you're probably going to get a knock on the door. That's one side of the aisle. The other side of the equation is that, there can also be complicity amongst the investigators. And I'm not implying that that's what's going on. I mean, I would hope that they would have a clean investigation that would turn up people who might be bad actors, but we don't know that. So I think that at this juncture, since they're determined to have this party, regardless of what the expense is, I mean, this might go down as like one of the most expensive inaugurals that nobody attended. There's no parade, no audience. Just you can live shoot. It'll be on Zoom. You can check it out online or whatever on your television. But it seems ludicrous to me. I mean, I think were I president,
if I was president,
if I was the president-elect, in sight of a worldwide pandemic and a financial calamity for large swaths of the country, if you're not working right now, you're in pain. If you don't have a continued source of income, whether it be through your money working for you or through a job, which is where most of I've had 4 gigs since this situation started. People are in a pinch. They've gotten a maximum of $1,800.
Billionaires made more money this year than they made before the pandemic.
Yeah, the billionaire class loves.
Also, they don't pay taxes. Shout out to
love calamity, and their lack of paying taxes is one of the reasons why the bucket is still leaking. I mean, we can talk about that. I mean, this system is not working. The bottom line is in all of this stuff.
That's one thing. Let's keep that together. The system, look at the camera. Let's say it. The system is not working.
Okay? When you look at the situation that happened on the 6th, what was that? That was a reaction. It was a reaction. The same reaction. I mean, people are separating themselves by political affiliation. It's not real. I mean, the reason why what they call the flyover states, and I don't want to use that as real, but that's what people have been calling them, is because they've been instructed by the powers that be to the point where they can be gamed by people who come in like a charlatan, like a Donald Trump, They can get their mind twisted and think, oh, somebody is my enemy and attack them, and then you're lost in the world. And we're all to some degree guilty of that type of behavior. Now, so we can dive into the reality of why this situation exists and how this type of idiocy becomes prevalent in a vacuum. We can talk about how it's being used, how the disaster that the world is undergoing is being used. It's being used. This is the saying. I don't even know who said it. It said, "Let no good crisis go to waste."
All right, well, let's expand on that, because that was going to be my closing quote when you brought it up. This expands on that notion that don't let a good crisis go away. I think it was Henry Kissinger, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, quote on that, boys and girls, but you can look that up. Henry Kissinger, I submit to you, is the one who said, "Don't let a good crisis go to waste," because usually crises are here to further the agenda of those already in power. Hence, the billionaires have made more money this year. Made more money since the pandemic than before the pandemic, and whereas the vast majority of us did not. This was Milton Friedman, who was not no friend of the progressive community, by the way, but he goes on to say this because even a broke clock is right 2 times a day. He says, "Only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When that crisis occurs, the actions that are taken depend on the ideas that are laying on the ground. That, I believe, is our basic function, to develop alternatives to existing policies, to keep them alive and available until the politically impossible becomes the politically inevitable." I submit to you that a guaranteed income is politically impossible before the pandemic. It is politically inevitable after the pandemic. Healthcare for everybody was politically impossible before the pandemic. It is now politically inevitable. I would say to you that a Green New Deal that employs everybody that wants to be employed, that saves the environment, that addresses climate change in a very aggressive manner, because that's also a third rail that we haven't talked about. But I think that is also politically inevitable. Here we are living in revolutionary times, and as you said earlier, people want to pretend and put a normalcy on it. Like, when are we going to get back to normal? When is this going to be over? I can't wait. It's never going to be over. It's never, ever going to be over. What was normal to begin with? Was it normal for 25,000 people to die every day around the world because they don't have access to clean water? Was it normal for the United States of America to use 25% of the world's resources, only 5% of the world's population, but at the same time have 25% of the world's prisoners? The largest prison system in the entire world is right here.
More people in China. North Korea.
China got 1 billion people. We got less than, 300 million? Around 300 million? And we got more prisons in China? And you want to point a good dirty finger? Like, America has lost all of black people. Some black people. I can't say black people anymore because, we got people like Clarence Thomas and Ben Carson. But most black people already knew America didn't have any credibility in terms of a moral standing. They invaded Iraq over a lie, and 1 million people were killed. And on top of that, $1 billion in cash was brought in a war zone on pallets and lost, and nobody knows what happened to it, and there was no investigation because Obama said, "We want to look forward, we're not going to look back." So, do you think Biden's going to do the same thing? He's going to give Trump a pass, he's not going to look back, he's going to look forward?
I expect that.
That is the system trying to perpetuate itself, and that should be unacceptable. This should be unacceptable.
Look, let's examine that. My expectation was that they would offer a deal to the outgoing president. For the
simple thing is going to be charged.
For the simple fact of normalcy. Now there are
for the sake of the country.
Yeah, for the sake of the good of the country. There are forces in New York State that would love to try to nail his feet to the carpet and bring him to justice for some of the crimes that he's allegedly committed. But I think that for the ongoing to maintain the curtain and the sheen of normalcy. They don't want to put a president behind. I mean, Nixon didn't go to jail. You know, they let him step down, and they carried on as normal. Gerald Ford pardoned him, right? And he rode up in the sunset until he died. You know, I don't think that they want to do that. I think that they are working behind the scenes to try to secure some type of an acceptable outcome that doesn't involve him being tried and perhaps convicted.
Donald Trump is the wealthiest president in the history of the United States of America.
Okay.
That's not my words. I can look that up. That is factual. I confirm that.
He's richer than George Washington?
Yeah. According to the sources, we look for that. But George was up there. George was in the top 10, if not the top 5.
Marries money.
Yeah, he married, you know, all the niggas he owned. All the niggas he owned. But one of the things I want to point out is that we haven't talked about Joe Biden's fact that he said nothing would change during the Biden administration. This is a quote from him. He said nothing would change in the Biden administration. In his first 100 days, he says that he doesn't want to deal with this impeachment stuff and dealing with Trump. He wants to get his people in first. So you're telling me you're going to ignore the clear and present danger of the greatest threat to internal security of the United States in the first 100 days until we get my agenda together, and then we're going to get back to that. Okay. That's what he's saying. I'm quoting. This is what he's saying.
I understand that.
Check this out.
Take the other side of the coin. You know, if you look at it for what it is, this is a president who suborned a riot and insurrection of Putin. He has 74 million people capping for him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, 14,000 right here inside the
14,000 right there, and they'll be back.
So 14,000 in D.C. registered voters voted for Trump. 14,000 right here. People don't forget that. That's 14,000.
When you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, I played my horn down at Lafayette Square, right beside the White House, for a year leading up to the situation. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of people who are still riding 3 years in with the president. And it's not a matter of, oh yeah, well, he's our president. So, no, these are people who are diehard, coming here, buying multiple MAGA hats and sweatshirts and gear and what have you. Now, when you take the energy that they showed that they have on the 6th and extrapolate that to a potential trial, what's the security look like? Okay? But extrapolate that to people who are going to, you know, expand their activism, let's say. Energize their activism in multiple places because their guy is being persecuted. When you take that and you expand it to there, you're going to have problems.
All right, we got to go to a commercial. We're going to go right here. This is Evan Kablan, Barsmith. Is it thebarsmith.com?
The Barsmith.
All right, let's turn it over. Go ahead and do a commercial right quick. I'm on a master thing. I'm fasting. I can't get my drink on, but this is the man. Give him a commercial right quick.
Hey, sir, thank you.
Look at the camera. Give him a commercial.
Mess Hall, DC, food, cocktails, fair. Evan Kablan. But the main one is barsmith.com. Thank you so much to the brother at React Radio. The other gentleman over here is, it makes me feel like I'm listening to Miles. Cheers.
And I can tell he's got the prescription for your affliction.
This is what you need in your life. This is what you need in life. Barsmith.com. Check it out.
We got the
I can't drink right now. I'm fasting. Clean your system out. I think, go right ahead. Doesn't make you feel any kind of way.
Anyway, so, positivity, 21.
And since we're on that commercial break,
Wait, are you still on?
we're still on. He's hitting it. He likes it.
Hey.
Is it good?
Hey.
Is it good, Fred?
Yes, sir.
It's good. It's good.
Hey. Wonderful. Thank you so much. How wonderful is it to come downstairs and to see you?
Wonderful. We're still on the air, but thank you. The Gospel.com.
Appreciate you.
One of the things I want to point out is that when Barack Obama was elected president, the most guns that was recorded was sold in America was the day after he was elected. Up until that time, It might have changed since then, but up until that time, I submit to you that when Trump was elected, more liquor was sold. Hey, look. So we're trying to get through this, but let's deal with the reality.
DC is a liberal and very left-leaning city, man. And I've been in DC, like I said.
Compared to what?
I mean,
Compared to South Dakota?
We can compare it to a lot of places, but what I'm saying is that the day after the election in 2016, it looked like people were showing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was literally a look of forlornness in people's eyes walking all around the city. People were stunned, you know. And so, one thing I do relate to is the shock of, you know, when during this last election cycle, you did see the Trump rallies with 20, 30 unmasked people there, and you know, all the stuff that was going on, and you do feel an energy in that situation. And you probably, if you were a Trump supporter and you were at those rallies and you were going and you were seeing on Southern TV because they get a different news feed, you felt like we got the same groundswell we had in 2016. We're going to win this thing. And so when the carpet is pulled out from under you, and you know, the guy who had the quiet town hall meetings, and you know, is just basically a pablum that's been on the hill for 47 years and is going to try to give people the calmness of the status quo. One, how did this guy win? And you feel like we felt when Hillary Clinton lost. It's the same, it's the flip side of the same emotion. Only thing is they're willing to.
What do you mean we, Kim Wasabi?
Well,
I predicted Trump winning.
You know, my prediction
I did not support Trump.
Your prediction, my prediction notwithstanding, and I can fit. America is a cult of personality. Trump was the most famous person in the election. So there was a very good chance he would win it. Before he joined,
they said he couldn't win.
Before he joined, Hillary Clinton was the most famous person in the election. And she was winning, you know, the primary. I mean, well, she did some work. They apparently did some things to jigger the primaries, you know, because of Bernie Sanders, you know, he presented the problem because of his populist, you know, movement. But other than that, once she got him out of the way, it was like she was like the presumptive nominee from the gate. And once she got the nomination, and she was up against Trump, she kind of relaxed, thinking nobody's going to vote for this guy who's saying he can shoot somebody on Broadway and still get elected. Nobody's going to vote for a guy who's up there mocking, you know, disabled.
He did everything.
Anything and everything. But people were taking that like, oh, he's the gunslinger, the maverick, the outsider who's going to shake this up, and he's a businessman, even though he has no real success as a businessman other than his TV show and his brand salesmanship. Mm-hmm. Everything else, you know, if you look at all his actual businesses, like the ones that, you know, Trump University, Trump Steaks, et cetera, they all failed. They all bankruptcy, man, and left people holding the bag. I mean, you know, on Wall Street, they call you, if you buy a stock at the peak and it tanks on it, and you get left holding the bag. The bag's got nothing in it. The bag is empty. The bag is, you put $1 million into a position, and you walk away with $350,000. You're a bag holder, or a loser. And you got two choices. You're either a loser because you cash out your chips and say, I'm gonna take this $350 and try to rebuild, or you're a bag holder and you say, I'm gonna hang in and hope that this thing bounces. At some point, even if it's a dead cat bounce and I get back to 500, I still lost half of it. Well, you let people hold it back. Construction workers, companies that worked on
you know, Atlantic City.
Atlantic City is a thing, man. So, you know, right now, he's got 74 million bag holders. Because they were promised that they were winning. You know, that's
your country. You can take your country back.
Yeah, we could parse what that means, man. They never parsed what it meant to make America great again.
Because it means make America white again. And they want to stop the tide of browning America. And that's why they wanted the wall so bad. That's why they were so adamant against Black Lives Matter and any of those those cases. Because the fact that they killed, and there was a police officer that committed suicide after this, because he just couldn't take it. So I think that should be attributed to them as well. So I say they're responsible for 2 police officers' deaths.
Blue Lives Matter.
Not to mention how many was beaten. Yeah, Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter. Remember that?
Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to Ann Coulter. I can't believe I'm saying this, but truth is truth. Ann Coulter was the first person I saw on TV predict that Trump was winning. She was on Bill Maher, and they laughed at her. You go back and watch the footage when we have her Facebook page right now. They laughed at her, and she predicted it. And also, I want to give a shout out to Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon, they laughed at her, they ridiculed her, because Susan Sarandon said she refused to vote for Hillary Clinton. And that would make way for Trump. She said Trump will bring the revolution overnight. And shout out to Susan Sarandon, who I support. I don't support Ann Coulter. I'm just saying that she was the first person that I saw predict that Trump would win and almost got laughed off the stage. Nobody's laughing at.
I'm sorry, man. But you're mentioning devils.
Even a broke clock's right 2 times a day.
That's worse than a broke clock, man. That's a broken Ouija board or something. I don't even know what the hell that is, man. Ann Coulter.
This that cognac pepper, this master is in.
No, man, I think
You better stop talking about Jimmy Walker, homegirl like that.
Hey, look, man.
You know, Ann Coulter and Jimmy Walker was kicking it, right? Y'all know that? That's great.
Yeah,
Jimmy Walker funny.
He's another wild dude, man. We met him on tour.
Well, tell the story.
It's a funny story. Who was it they walked up to him? Oh, James, yeah, that's right. We were in the airport and he was flying. We were flying like some discount airline. I can't remember what it was. Whether it was in Europe or here in the States, but I think it was Value Jet, EasyJet, or some European carrier. We saw him in the terminal. He was up there, flying standby and trying to get onto the plane. And James went over to him and he's like, "Hey, man." Now there's a trumpet player who's semi-famous in Baltimore named Jimmy Wilson. And James went up to JJ, Jimmy Walker. He's like, "Hey, man, aren't you Jimmy Wilson?" And he looked at him side-eye. He's like, "I don't know who that is, brother." He's like, no, man, come on, quit playing, man. You're Jimmy Wilson, man. He was pressing him, and he couldn't get over. He's like, "Oh, shoot, I meant ball." And he gave him, man. He was like, "Man, brother, get away from me. I don't know who that is, and you're strange." He just like basically like shaded him. And James came back licking his wounds, and he was like, "Man, I wasn't trying to say what's up to Jimmy Wilson." Quay was like, "No, that's Jimmy Walker."
Okay. He could have corrected it, man. But anyway, because Jimmy Walker funny money to begin with. Not just because he's kicking it with Ann Coulter, but he also said that Stephen Fletcher didn't do nothing wrong. That he had, and Stephen Fletcher knows, I don't hate on the brother. You know what I'm saying? But him being lifted up, that he had to go to the grave with that. You know what I'm saying? Because there was some point we got to cut people off, and I just don't know why folks haven't cut Trump off. There's nothing, like he said, he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, Second Avenue. It doesn't matter. There's nothing he can do for the Trump people. The white supremacists, this is their last stand. This is their holding on to. And I predict something's going to happen tomorrow. You think it's going to be kosher, or what you think? I mean, you say you don't know, but I'm saying, what do you think?
My gut feel is that nothing's going to happen in the capital area of D.C. tomorrow. They got too much. I don't think that they're going to have any rogue actors amongst the National Guardsmen.
I don't think everybody's playing for the same team for it.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's going to be a return of the insurgency. I don't think there's going to be anybody, knock on plywood or whatever.
This is wood right here from Africa. Wood from Ghana.
That doesn't preclude other stuff happening. I mean, we had precursors. You look
It's
at
50 capitals in threatened.
It's 50 capitals. You look what happened in Nashville a couple of weeks ago.
51 capitals.
So anything can happen, and depending on the energy of people that he's stoking, And the thing is, he's a money man. His wings are getting clipped a little bit. He's still got the ability to grab a megaphone and shout fire. And that's a powerful thing. It's more powerful actually out of office and aggrieved. Because now you got people riding with you that you got robbed, and you got a megaphone to keep fanning those flames. I mean, we're lucky he's still not, on the. I don't know if him and Bannon are still buddies, But he's a media.
I know he done fired almost everybody. Yeah. But I think that this is not going to be smooth sailing. And for those who don't know, this is not a country. America is not a country. America is an empire. There's a difference. Countries don't have bases all around the world. In fact, I always tell my media arts students, I usually teach a media arts training class every summer with the very Summer Employment Program, but also we didn't have that program this year. Hopefully we'll come back this summer. But I would say, if you want to point out just how crazy American exceptionalism is, American first is, just insert the word Jamaica every time you want to say America. Jamaica has military bases all around the world. Jamaica wants to invade this country. When preemptive strike. And you were like, what? But that is acceptable in America. We say it all the time. The president is the most powerful person in the world. How is it one man, the president of a country that represents 5% of the world's population, the most powerful man on the planet? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous, but it's acceptable because those are tenements of white supremacy. And we are witnessing the dismantling of white supremacy in our lifetime. It's falling apart right before our eyes. And this is what I submit is the fuel in the engine that's driving these people, because they want to take their country back. This is supposed to be a white country ran by white people, for white people, by white people, and they were even willing to deny themselves or vote against their own interests if it means preventing those people having what I have. That is what I submit, because Dr. Francis Cress Wilson and Nellie Fuller said that until you understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else you think you understand will only confuse you.
Okay. I mean, what was the quote in the Spike Lee movie? Like, it's been broke. Like, break it down with it. It's been broke.
Break it down so it's forever be broke. So there it is. So I want people to get into it. We got a few minutes left here. Your thoughts on where you want to go from here. We got a few minutes. I wish we could respond to your comments in real time. I'm gonna take a look on the comments on the Facebook. IG, I'm sorry, we're not able to respond to you. But if you feel strongly about this, share it with a friend and point out the points that you agree with, disagree with. We'd love to hear from you. And let's embrace the fact that we're living in revolutionary times. There's no going back from here. And I want to end on a good note on what some of those opportunities that Milton Friedman alluded to in the crisis presents to us. Do you see any opportunities that is available to us? I want to end it there on a high note.
Absolutely. Just like they say, let no good crisis, go wasted. This situation actually has opportunities for anybody in any position. You look at the calamity that's happened in terms of implosion of small businesses across the country, but those needs that those small businesses provided will remain and will grow on the other side of this pandemic emergency. And so those opportunities will exist. As a musician, I've seen bars close, clubs close, venues. The one right here in Brooklyn, which is Alice's Jazz and Cultural Society, is no longer operational. We went out of business a couple of weeks ago. And, so now the Northeast community is totally underserved in terms of live music venues and especially jazz venues. That's an opportunity for anybody who's an entrepreneur who has good planning. You probably can get discount rates on the real estate or the lease to open a place. It really just takes planning and foresight. There's opportunities to get into position to help steer this ship forward. I mean, the rats started jumping off the ship in terms of administration prior to the last week of the administration. We're lucky to be rid of some of the people like Betsy DeVos, who really was anti-public schools. Somebody leading that division is anti-public schools was a calamity, potential real problem for our children. Luckily, some of the damage looks like it can be reversed, and maybe we can actually build better mechanisms for education, primarily, especially in the underserved areas like the rural areas of the country, where now hopefully kids have access to online learning and stuff that they wouldn't have had access to prior to the pandemic. We can balance and level the playing field, but it takes work, it takes elbow grease, it takes commitment by individuals and groups of people to get out there and do the hard work of fashioning a better future that has more opportunity across the board for everyone. Make America great for real. Forget about again. Let's actually fashion something that works for the whole hive and not just for the queen.
Woo! He said the whole hive, not just the queen. That is a hell of a statement right there. That might be a hip hop quotable. Another hip hop quotable, I would say quotable, but definitely a tune that I've been listening to all day today. Was Brand Nubian. Time is running out. Time is running out. I think y'all want to check that out. And that was, I think it was recorded in '97, for real. But Brand Nubian, Time running out. Play this, check that out. I want to say that yes, this crisis has created opportunities. I cannot speak for other cities, but I can speak on behalf of Washington, D.C., that we were a strong victim of gentrification and displacement. So many of our businesses was closed, moved out, pushed out, and now with so many, and it was like, U Street was like the Black Broadway. For those who don't know, before there was Harlem, there was U Street in Washington, D.C., and that whole street was taken from us. It was all mostly white businesses. Ethiopians had fled. Black people got priced out. Now half of those buildings are gone. Half of those businesses are gone. And so now there creates opportunity to be replaced. The prices have gone down. So now it's almost like a redistribution of wealth because it's given afforded opportunity. I got two friends that's opening venues in the midst of all this. They're going to be opening this spring. And they would have entered a much more crowded field before this pandemic, but now it's wide open. So it creates opportunities, and we need to begin to do what we can to take advantage of that. We need to understand that who we give our money to, who we give our power to. We got to be conscientious consumers. We have to start pulling our resources together. We have to decrease our level of dependency on the system and increase our interdependency on each other. And I want everybody to start paying attention to my favorite mayor, Ras Baraka, in the great state of New Jersey. I don't know about the great state, Christy and all them cats, but definitely Newark, New Jersey. Ran up to Newark, to New Jersey. Brick City, under Ras Baraka, son of Amir Baraka. He has his police force never fired their weapon all of 2020. 2020, they didn't shoot nobody. Never fired.
That is an accomplishment.
Never fired their gun. He has their own plan to replace all the lead pipes in the city.
That's what's up.
For comparison, DC shot a whole bunch of people, killed a whole bunch of people. DC Water, the private company that owns the water, municipal water system here in Washington, D.C., said it would take 100 years for them to replace all the lead pipes in the nation's capital. 100 years. Brick City is doing it now. So where's the will, there's a way. And so we need to start challenging these folks and start pointing and looking at great designs and great examples.
Man, if they're replacing the lead pipe that's in Newark.
In Newark, they're
They need
replacing
to bring that program to Baltimore.
and in every city.
Every city, Flint, Michigan, Big ups.
Do Flint still got that water situation?
Yeah,
Has
they
it been
still
rectified?
they
No
still
one
do.
go to jail? No one go to jail?
They just indicted the governor, I think.
I think it was a misdemeanor.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm pretty sure it was a misdemeanor. But one thing I want to say before we get out of here is, what is your concern about AI? We haven't talked about AI. I'm not talking about you and I, I'm talking about you don't hear about it in the media. Because even
The best little big man that ever played a game. Man. Practice. Practice.
Artificial intelligence is done.
I had it, man. You walk into that, man.
Alright, shout out to Allen Allison. We still love him, boy. Still love him. I'm glad he got some money. I'm glad he had good representation around him that made sure that he didn't end up like what's my man on the marriage that Mark Cuban just saved.
Yeah, my man. Yeah, he had mental issues, man. You talking about the cat?
Yeah, but you still have to have people around you. You know what I'm saying? Delonte West. And hope he has a full recovery. And shout out to Mark Cuban for looking out for him.
Yeah, definitely. But artificial intelligence, man, is weaving its way into our lives intimately on a daily basis, man. You got Google Home and Google Chrome and all the Amazon devices. You got the police using technology that people aren't even aware of, man. We thought that the Stingray was something. You know what the Stingray is? That's like a fake cell tower to intercept your conversations.
They use that. They use that in the White House.
Some new stuff now that it is using the computing power to data mine.
They didn't use it on the 6th. For those who don't know, these are contractions. You can correct me if I'm wrong. There's Stingrays, those that they suppress cell phone service and intercept. That's why it's hard to live stream and do these things when you're close to the White House or what have you. And those that protesters know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't seem like the insurrectionists on the 6th had any problems with their cell phones.
Yeah, man. There's that technology is not even AI. It's just something that they use to control situations when they want to. Mm-hmm. But the AI aspect of it is a new device that they have that actually allows them to data mine stuff at like real-time speeds. I can't remember what the name of the new device is, but they're rolling them out. The name of the game, I mean, when you watch the movie The Matrix,
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon, yeah, but there definitely is a matrix.
There's a knife though.
Probably several guns as well, right? But plugging people in from the cradle to the grave, man, and just extracting their life spirit. What is life? We all have to define that for ourselves. What is it that you think that you're here to do, and get to doing it? Don't waste a day. Because artificial intelligence is, you add that to weaponry, or add that to robotics and all these things that we've seen in these dystopian, exposés on TV and in the movies, and we already can see where those things can go. So it's up to people. It's up to us to marshal technology for the good of the common person. Right now, technology is working for the billionaire class in an extractive. This is an extractive.
Well, this is deep, and I wanted to. What's up, pretty lady? But the thing is that another lesson I got from Tom Martin today. There was some AI bot they had created for social media posts, right? They did it for Twitter, and there was no service as a service with companies, so they can just automatically respond to popular trends and then comment on based on those trends to keep their visibility up. This was an AI service that was tested out. They tested for 4 hours. For 4 hours, they had to shut it down. You know why? They shut it down because by the algorithms of monitoring the trends, I should say, of popular tweets and what have you, most comments and things that people are interested in, it turned the Autobot into a Nazi. It was posting racist stuff because that was what it was responding to because it was high levels of that. They shut it down, and he said, "What?" And this is even Elon Musk. I was thinking about Peter Thiel and combining the two, but Elon Musk, who's not a progressive, by the way. I drive a Tesla, but that's because I'm a fan of Nikola Tesla, and I want an electric car. That's the best one on the market. But Elon Musk says that he's concerned about AI because the turning autonomous power over AI. What if AI determines that humans are the threat? That sounds like the Terminator. These are real conversations. Do you know why last thing. The one thing with the autonomous driving, you know why we don't have autonomous driving? I'm talking about the level that they have the capacity to do, because they haven't figured out if you get out the car, how to close the door. If you have Uber with no drivers, if they can figure out how to close the door, if the passenger gets out and doesn't close the door. Because the car would take off with the door open, or would sit there until someone closes the door. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I was at a panel, and there was contractors making pitches to the city on this, and that was the bug, as they said.
That's one of the bugs. One of the things that they don't discuss out in the open, but this is a conundrum that they've been working on with autonomous driving, and in terms of a full rollout, is who dies. Excuse me? Who dies? Like when you're talking about an accident, some type of a glitch or malfunction or what have you, like there has to be a calculus of, do you kill the passengers in the vehicle? Do you self-preserve? You know, a human being is automatically going to try, I think, in a situation to preserve their own life. And you're driving, you see a deer, you know, you're calculating, do I hit him? What part of him can I hit? Can I swerve to avoid him? Is there a car around me? Whereas when you talk about computer having to make those calculations in real time, in a situation where there could be 1 death or 2 deaths or 5 deaths in this one vehicle versus you hit a bus and cause it to go off a bridge, you know, those type of calculations are always part of the equation. And how do you game plan for that? How do you figure that? I mean, some of the accidents they've had with the Teslas, you know,
I do not support autonomous driving.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you've seen iRobot, you know, Will Smith seems like the harbinger, the canary in the coal mine in his movie career, man. He's an enemy of the state.
Yeah.
You talk about iRobot, you talk about, what's the one where he's the last man and the zombies are trying to get
And New York looked just like that. No, I Am Legend.
I Am Legend, that's
I Am Legend looked, New York Times Square looked just like I Am Legend last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know, this
Shout out to Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Will Smith or whoever's like steering him in the path of being like the grim.
He has a formula that he works with in terms of movies. He said that he realized that most movies, the big blockbusters, had an alien, you know, or a monster, or a superhero, and he's not doing this.
Yeah, but where we, you know, the future could get really dystopian real quick. And AI is rolled out in a way that's, I mean, watch it. There's a series, it's originally a British series called Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. And there's one on there called AutoFac. Like autonomous factory is what it's short for. So it shows you Amazon of the future on steroids in a dystopian, you know, just watch it yourself, you'll see. That's potentially one way things can go. Who knows? I mean, it wasn't Elon Musk that came up with the idea that AI unleashed could be. Stephen Hawking has been talking, before he died, rest in peace, Stephen Hawking. He had been spreading that.
Who is this?
Stephen Hawking was a preeminent physicist of our day.
Okay.
He was a shut-in. He was totally, you know, quadriplegic and in a wheelchair, and he designed a thing for him where he could basically write with his breath, you know, from the breathing tube, and he could like basically type by using his breath and using his mouth. And he's written several books on physics.
Oh, I think I saw something on him because a lot of paraplegics was talking about how it changed their life.
Yeah, he was the guy, man, and he's like one of the most brilliant scientists of our lifetime. And he was against AI, and he was like, he said it's a real danger. It's one of the main potential dangers facing mankind. I mean, we're gonna, the future of man is that we're gonna probably kill ourselves before an asteroid hits the planet. We're not going out like the dinosaurs. We're gonna go out like on our own accord.
It could be like the Terminator, real quick. And I just thought that it was amazing that Elon Musk, who was a serious capitalist, was against it. He would be financially enriched by it, but it's just
So
crazy.
Teslas don't have any implementation of AI in their all that.
Well, the time is that that's a form of AI, but he was saying that he was warning about the dangers of it, like turning it over. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's working with it, but not turning it over where it is unleashed. That's what he was saying. Two things I want to roll out here, because to tie a ribbon in the AI is that the transportation sector is the first one they go trying to pitch it to. Why? Because they can get rid of all the drivers. Why? Because they can save all this money. They don't have to cut their labor costs. And then you're going to have all these other people that's out of work and what have you. And that's when it's a race to the bottom. So
The biggest employer of men in America is the transportation industry, whether it be transportation of goods and services or people, airline pilots, bus drivers, taxi drivers.
And unless you're going to come out with a universal basic income, that is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
As I said, two things I want to mention before we get out of here, and I'll let you make a closing comment as well. One is that something else that people need to realize is that, did you know that in terms of the history of America, that inauguration used to happen in March? It wasn't January, it was March. Do you know when it changed? It changed during the Great Depression when we went from when FDR came in, because the president prior to him was denying the evils of the Great Depression was actually occurring, that we're going to get past it, we're going to turn a corner, it's going to be over soon. It's just like Trump was talking about the pandemic, but the election was in November, as you know, and then they did not want to wait until March to start implementing FDR's game-changing plans, and so they moved it up to January. And they resisted FDR's Social Security. They resisted FDR changing child labor laws. They resisted the New Deal. And these are the things that was necessary. It was game changing, and that's what we need now. We need that type of foresight because we can't wait. So I'm saying it to say this: that we can't wait for that 100 days for this dude. Like, he needs to come off the break. Put some muscle in his hustle. And then lastly, MOK every day. And before I do that, I leave it over to you for closing comment.
Well, I mean, piggybacking off of what you were talking about in terms of the inaugural and the 100 days, I think that, one thing we learned from the Obama administration is if you don't get it in, you won't get it in. So, here's hoping that, the stuff that he's talking about is actually helpful and that they're able to implement it as soon as possible.
All right, closing out with Martin Luther King. One day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you are raising a question about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. I'm simply saying that more and more we have to begin to ask the question about the whole society. We are called upon to help to discourage beggars in life's marketplace. But one day we must come to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. It means that questions must be raised. And when you deal with this, you begin to ask the question, who owns the oil? You begin to ask the question, who owns the iron ore? You begin to ask the question, why is it that people have to pay water bills in a world that's 2/3 water? These are words that must be said. They have made turned the system over to capitalize on the things that we need. The necessities of everyday life have been commodified and monetized. And the reason I drive a Tesla because I'm reminded of Nikola Tesla, who had invented similar or Wi-Fi system for energy. And he was going to provide the entire globe with free energy. So you should get pissed off every time you pay an electric bill, because had Nikola Tesla dream been realized, and it was realized, he built it, it worked. But they didn't distribute it because whoever his billionaire sponsor was, when he realized that he could not commodify and monetize it, he shut it down. And they put Nikola Tesla out of business. And this man died alone feeding pigeons in the park. And this was in the turn of the century, over 100 years ago. Think how the world would be different if we had free energy. So they have done what they can to profit off controlling our needs and desires. This is the world we live in. That is what capitalism is, and that is what needs to change, and the whole system needs to be restructured.
Amen.
There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, friends and enemies, stay safe, stay strong, stay woke. It's been Patrick Freeman and
Freddie Dunn.
give me your contact information and support your music, man.
Yeah, please visit me on Reverb Nation. That's Reverb Nation / Freddie Dunn Jr. FREDDIEDUNNJR. All together is one word. Or on my website at www.thefdq. That's Freddie Dunn Quartet, the FDQ.com.
I just hate it when people say www. As if it could be anything other than that. That is so 1990. That's so 2000.
We got sites now.
What site does it start off with that?
Lots of sites.
What is it? Put you on the spot. He's been drinking. All right. And before we get out here, last commercial break, the 2020 IGC.org, the 2021 IGC.org. Don't miss the Inauguration 2021 Gospel Celebration, the Evening of Inspiration and Unity, hosted by Anthony Anderson and DC's own Lamar Rucker. Shout out to my man, Turk Stevens. I hope all is well with you and yours. Don't stop. Don't stop. Because Martin King said, whatever you do, keep moving. If you can't run, walk. You can't walk, crawl. Or whatever you do, keep moving. Don't stop. We got ready to do something.